Hi, welcome to another episode of the Pacific Northwest Sasquatch Research Group. I'm your host, Craig Yanni, better known as the Yeti Man in the Bigfoot world. We're here at Ocean Shores for the 2017 Sasquatch Summit. We'll be here interviewing multiple speakers and the local town folks who've had multiple sightings of the most elusive creature in the Pacific Northwest, Bigfoot. Let's get started.
How many here wants to hear a Bigfoot expert? Well, I gotta tell you, there's not one in the house. And I'm one of them that isn't. What I did do is I encountered these creatures along with 5 other guys in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And we had multiple encounters with them. And anyway, that's what my story is about. It's in 2 parts. I'll tell you how it started. I will introduce the sounds to you. If you haven't heard them before, you'll hear them this time, and a couple new ones on there too, which we recorded the entities, and they've been scientifically looked at, the sounds have, and accredited. So anyway, this is not really the woo. I don't believe in the woo, but I do believe in there's things out there that we don't know about. I think if you stick with just one parameter in your thinking, that you're going to be left out. So I get into the other parameters a little bit. This is about language, because the ones I encountered in the Sierra Nevada mountains have language, and that's been established by a cryptolinguist it's an art form to be a cryptolinguist. Only 1 out of every 10 people even qualify to take the test or get into the school program, and he's a 2-time graduate of that school. His name is Scott Nelson. This is a way to get into camp. We took our supplies in with mules, and it's about 8 miles into the wilderness area. That's what the shelter looked like then. It doesn't look like that today, but in fact it's not even there today. We have to take it down. At this camp, me and 5 other guys witnessed very unusual events, not just once, but repeatedly over several years. And we recorded them, had them documented, and actually Alan Berry, that's this gentleman here on the left, my right in the picture, that's me and him. He's the investigative reporter that went in to try to find a hoax. He thought it was a hoax. And I didn't know that at the time, none of us did, but he was looking through our packs. He was looking for any signs of speakers or anything like that. One thing Scott mentioned in the talk this morning was just how powerful their sounds are. That's one thing that these sounds won't give you, is the amplitude in which they come out. They're so powerful, they can just bury you almost, and you can, it's just amazing how loud they can be. And probably I'm a little staticky right now, aren't I? Am I okay? Can everybody hear me? Oh, okay. That's what a woo sounds like. And they have different types of woos too. They can, I think their woo is probably signaling to each other what to do next, or trying to get a reaction out of us. But credible evidence can often be ignored if it doesn't fit within predetermined paradigms. That's what I want to get into, is don't determine your paradigm, what you think these things are. Just be neutral and be vanilla and accept new things. Because that's called cognitive dissonance. And it is the mental conflict that occurs when beliefs or assumptions are contradicted by new information. This may be new information to you. And I want to play some of the sounds now. This is where we rounded up our mules and horses and kept them there at camp. This is the display sound. That's loud. It is when it's just a few feet from you too. We were inside that shelter when most of this went on. And this is messaging with rocks or raps. This is something else they do to communicate with each other, we believe. And that was the one night I got to get a glimpse of one, by the way, so I know what was making these sounds a little bit later when they were whooping and chattering. And this is a message with whoops, just whoops, and you'll hear the different types I'm talking about here. Hear that big limb crack? That was one of them. I think they do that to see what you're going to do. I have a lot of opinions on these things, and I'll keep some of them to myself, but I will share some of those with you. This is where they were talking, according to the cryptolinguists, using a language. I got to explain what a language is. A language, by the human definition of language, is a morpheme string, which consists of words that make up a cognitive sentence. That's what we do. And only humans are credited for sapience, and that's what I'll get into here in a minute, because language represents that to me. You can bring me something, I wasn't sure what it was. Anyway, that was a language you could hear children conversing back and forth. This is just a breathing that show you how close they were to the microphone, which we had outside the remoted outside the shelter wall. And I tell people I think that one had asthma, I'm not sure. And this is when they were interacting with me in 1974. The other one we heard with language was 1972. We've been interacting with them, working with them for a couple of years by then, since 71 actually. And this went on real close-up stuff until 1976 when we had to shoot a bear camp. That's when they kind of stood back on us a little bit more, I guess. Camp that evening. There was an adolescent, we believe, which I recorded to, I don't have it here, but it's on the CD that comes with the book that talks about this very evening. And anyway, there was a male and female, we believe, and this is where you hear the samurai cry that's so often talked about. You heard the word Matt Moneymaker used earlier. Who knows who he is? Yeah, he's the guy on the Finding Bigfoot, one of them. Anyway, prior to him starting the BFRO, he come up and heard my sounds, and he actually coined the samurai cry as being the samurai cry, which I'll play for you in a few minutes. But he also started the BFRO right after that. And were they trying to intimidate us, befriend us, communicate something, or just curious? See, we have cryptolinguists listed, but he doesn't know what they're trying to say. He just knows that it is language, but a human definition of language, which is what I mentioned a minute ago. And first thing Al Verdi did, he's the investigative reporter who went in, he turned this, I went to the Watergate, the people who did the Watergate tapes. Who remembers Nixon here? Okay, well, some people are my age. Anyway, the sounds, they didn't do a full-blown study, but they did get this, sounds were spontaneous, they were taken for time recordings, there was no such a hum, which would have shown pre-recorded in a studio. And that's from Ivy Tybel. He's the president of Synthetics Research, who did the study on the Nixon and Watergate tapes. But because they couldn't do a full-blown study, and that's him. Does anybody have that book? Oh, I see a couple hands going up. It's a classic book. He writes about our encounters in this book. He co-authored it with Anna Slade. And without him, I wouldn't be here talking with you today. He encouraged me to start talking. Him and I started going on talking things with, actually, Matt Nicker. But this is Dr. Kerwin. He was here a couple of years ago. I introduced him. He did a year-long study at the University of Wyoming. And some of you have heard this before, but we'll hear it again. Look at the square box. Did we tell her at the last? That was within the human range. It sounded very human-like. In fact, I had someone say, well, that's a human. It can't be a Bigfoot. The Bigfoot can't talk. I've heard a lot of people just cross their arms and say, well, these things can't talk. They're big out in the woods. Well, the ones we encounter up there talk to each other, and they communicate with each other with some type of language. Don't know what they were saying. I wish I did, because they were asking me something that night, and I was yelling back and forth to them. But let me play that sound once more, and listen now to the grr sound at the beginning, and that sounds like, read this down at the bottom, it gives a representation of something that's close to 8 foot tall. Anyway, there you are. Who knows the range we speak in? The normal humans speak, this gives you an idea of infrasound and ultrasound, because it's been suggested these things can communicate in infrasound, which I personally believe they can. That's what lions, a huge lion, that's what elephants, giraffes, a lot of larger animals communicate in infrasound. They can communicate in infrasound. And it's below what we can hear, but it can definitely affect you. And I've had some things happen to me up there, and the other guys. It was something strange, and it could have been infrasound, but this froze us in our tracks. And anyway, a little bit interesting. I'll get on the right button here. Okay. This is Nancy Logan. She made a statement which I thought was very interesting. She's a human sound expert, only one of 10 in California qualified to do what she could do. She said, who or whatever made these noises said the voice pitch range is considerably more flexible than that of Homo sapiens sapiens humans, it goes much lower and much higher. So I have there you go. I have a speculation. If humans had 2 vocal cords, what you do? They could have more, given them some very unusual vocal abilities. We've heard some things up there that just, you can't account for them. And it's like our cat outside the shelter being tore apart, the barrels being strung out everywhere, and you think that everything was breaking loose out there. You look out there a little bit later, nothing's changed. I don't know how to explain that, other than speculation. So, because they can either make that sound or they can make you think you're hearing that sound. Anyway, this is Scott Nelson. He is a cryptolinguist. He teaches foreign languages in Missouri. And he was very well vetted by the chief knowledge officer for the United States, actually. He's a 2-time graduate of that school, and they said he's more than qualified to transcribe the language, and that's what he did. But it is, again, an art form. He's not a scientist, but he is a cryptolinguist, and he was trained by the military, Navy, and retired as a cryptolinguist to study languages. One of the tests they gave you is to decipher transcribal language on the spot when you're taking your test. But quite a knowledgeable person. This is 3 years after the initial contact, which the initial contact started in 1971. Notice we all have our sagittal crest on. Oh, come on, who knows what a sagittal crest is? These are soft cats. I don't want your food. I got those elongated skulls over on my table. This came out of Peru. Yeah. ago. Interesting times. The cryptolinguist seems to think they slowed their vocalizations down in 1974 to communicate. And this is what I think is a question, which I have no idea what they were asking. But you'll hear it, and if you got any ideas, well, keep your ideas, because nobody really knows. What's happening there? I know you guys would all like to hear a Bigfoot expert. Like I say, I'm not an expert. There's not one in the house. I don't think there is one anywhere. But I am somebody that's encountered these things on a personal level. I've seen them in the flesh. I know they exist. I'm not trying to convince anybody that they exist or don't exist, because anything with a language does exist. Anything you can see in the Patterson human that can walk like that, it exists. So they're out there. It's what we can perceive with our eyes. It's a little bit of a question. Having language, by the human definition of language, which I explained, is attributed only to humans. And what could that mean? What would that mean? It's attributed only to humans. We're humans. Could that mean something? So how do we effectively understand these meanings if we stay within our predetermined paradigm that they are only what you can see? There's that one. My thanks to Dan Cassidy, who did the artwork for that. He heard me on one of the radio programs and volunteered to do a rendering for me, and that was it. But I got into researching, and I've been all over the world, the globe actually, looking at different enigmas, trying to understand what has gone on in our past. Because I think if you ignore history, if you ignore the past, you're going to rob the present. Got that at Kung Fu years ago, by the way. But you can't ignore the past, or you're going to repeat it. We got to look into evolution. Was there evolution? Was the native lore? Do we ignore the native lore that goes on with these things? Do we ignore quantum physics? Do we ignore? Well, we don't ignore classical science, because that's what we're all looking for. Ancient texts, biblical history, eyewitness reports, and for heaven's sakes, your own experience if you've had one. Any one is better than the other. I think we have to consider them all and look at all. Last year I went into the Sierra camp. This is how I went. Carrie and I, back there at my table. And she had a 8-minute rodeo ride on that trail. She won't ride a horse now because of that. But anyway, an effective researcher does not selectively find reports that his or her paradigm does not discredit others and keeps an open mind. We search and research for the truth, and the truth will defend itself. I believe that wholeheartedly. So, show me the proof. Classical science. What is happening there? Most researchers follow this method, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with this method. We should all follow it. We want to see the things. We want to find the proof. But that is the classical science way. Classical science is based on the claim that all reality is material or physical. And is it? You hear people pray, you hear people talk about spirituality, but is it really part of who you are? If you believe that, then you've kind of got to get into, religions might call it heavens, I call it dimensions. That's what quantum physics calls it. But classical science requires a body of evidence. It cannot be predicated on likes or dislikes. It cannot be found on beliefs or disbeliefs. It must be proven by repeatable experiments. And anybody seen that film before? Are their intentions good or bad? There's stories about them kidnapping people. There's stories about them interacting with people like they do with us. I think the ones we were dealing with were friendly. Obviously, we weren't beaten. We weren't carried away in our sleeping bags. They were trying to communicate something to me, to us, me and this other gentleman who was with me. And anyway, could they have crossbred with the great apes sometime? He lived down by breeding with natives. A lot of Native American lore would talk about that. Because they are not all the same in my opinion. And you notice that a lot, right? The footprints, ours are very huge, very splayed. I don't know how old they are, how big they are. But a lot of people think they may be a remnant of Gigantopithecus, which that's where classical science goes, which is good, because what we don't know is was Gigantopithecus sapient or not. Do we ignore the Native American lore? It says they live in two worlds. What does that mean? Are we ignoring that? Spirit beings that can disappear. Is that even possible? I started looking at all this because over the years I've interviewed a lot of people and talked to them about these things. They said they've had a sighting. And more than once, in fact, many times I've heard them say they disappeared right in front of their eyes. They cloaked. You'll hear this, and that gets into the woo factor, which some people don't agree with. But just think about it. It's not woo, it's just something we don't understand yet. It's something we haven't got our heads wrapped around. Can they do that? Yes. According to vibrational frequencies, and if you get into quantum physics, and I encourage anybody to start reading the books on that, you can find where in mathematics, a lot of things can happen that we can't see with our three-dimensional eyes. And do we ignore the ancient texts, the biblical giants of old? Do we believe in the Bible or any of the ancient texts? They were called demigods. There's all kinds of evidence of giants on this earth. And, is it possible that someone more advanced than us? Wow, that's a big step. There's a dolphin. I shot him in there. Dolphins and humans have about the same size brain. Well, Bigfoot's bigger. Of course, elephants are bigger too. They're 17 pounds, their brain. But that doesn't mean, let's do that in there. What could give them the reported abilities? Because there are a lot of people who have reported some very strange things. Like I say, these people that said they saw them disappear, I used to just write them off and put them in a corner and say, I'm just going to get an ape out there somewhere around in the woods. We just got to discover them. Well, could there be more? Could there be something else to them? And personally, I believe there is. After my 46 years of researching and encountering them myself, trying to trick them, trying to do everything we can to get a picture. You wouldn't believe it, what we went through trying to do this. The thing is, it's all cooperated by, there were 6 of us at the time, there's only 3 of us still living. I'm barely living, but here I am. It's interesting that somebody hadn't grabbed this story and really, this is important stuff. If these things have a language, and they exist, and they do, what are they? Why hasn't somebody really captured this and took it seriously? Because there was a lot of cooperative stuff going on with this, our encounters in the Sierras. Here's an interesting thing. Anybody seen The Predator? Things can disappear, can't they? The military has a blanket now. I'm sure they started this in 2012 where you can actually cloak yourself up in this blanket. It bends the light around you. And that's pretty cool. This is an octopus. And watching close, this is under the water, obviously. But here's how he camouflages. You never know it, would you? The cuttlefish and the squid also do the same thing. And I've been in the water with them all over. And Bigfoot's a primate, so they all have the same skin wave. So I don't think they can float like that. If they can go out of our sight, my question has and was, how do they do it? How can they do it? How do they get out of our sight? Do they camouflage like the octopus? Maybe bend light around them like the blankets? I don't think they carry a coating blanket around with them. Just don't think that's true. Can they entangle our minds to not see their reflection? It's called quantum entanglement. Because they are, I gotta say this right, but we're all one energy. You get right down to the basics, everything is energy. I get into this in my new book, The Quantum Bigfoot. I'll be talking about that in a minute. When I see too many people getting too hungry, then I quit. Or could it be a vibrational frequency, be the vocal mechanism? We'll talk a little bit about how complicated and how interesting the vocal mechanism could be and is, in my experience. And it makes this my personal measure of vibrational frequency to go out of our perception. And like I say, you only believe what you can see, right? But what if there's things out there that you can't see? Can you believe in those? That's my question to you. How else does something so big stay so concealed? That good picture. Diane Claudio did this. He was at the International Bigfoot Conference, which I spoke at here a couple months ago in September. And yeah, there's Mr. Ford over there who was Russell Ford in charge of that. So he's got his hands raised. I'll put a light on you, Russell, let everybody can see it. Oops. Oh my gosh, I really screwed up that. Hang on a minute. What happens when I try to put light on somebody? Need a mouse pad up here too, Johnny. Stop me when you see where I was. I was right here somewhere, I think. We'll get out of this one right quick. You guys don't want to hear any sounds again, do you?
Go forward.
Huh?
Go forward. You went back too far.
I didn't go far enough ahead. Okay, we got the octopus. They can do it. How do they do it?
Right there.
There we are. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Claudio. Good artist. Got a website too.
Be very, very quiet.
Like that one? Okay, we're going to go down the rabbit hole a little bit and do some speculation. But based on what I think I've just got, well, I think we know something. Do we really know it? I used to be a former that was a long time ago. I was, like I said, curator for the BFRO and got kind of adopted into that organization, which is a great one. I mean, they just don't get into the paranormal or the outside of our parameters of thinking. To some kind of an A plus something else. That took me into the modern science of quantum physics. Quantum physics, it takes classical science and quantum sciences together to have clear perception. I really like that. That's Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was an astronaut, and he made that statement. Good statement. Ever had a deja vu? Who has deja vus? Anybody? Yeah, you know what those are? I can't tell you. Time does not exist like you think it does. That's how you can have a dream all night long, all of a sudden your dream tells you someone's knocking the door and someone's really knocking at the door. How does that happen? How can that happen so quick? Because there isn't no time. Here they have my new book, Quantum Bigfoot. But it answers to me, quantum sciences answers telepathy, intuition, time, spirituality, which I think is important, and I think also could answer some of the questions we involved with Bigfoot. How do they do what they do, and what I know them to do, and what other people claim they're doing. In my book, I mentioned the physicists of these physicists, by the way, were required to search outside the parameters of classical science for answers to how all things work. Because classical science, like I say, just requires certain levels. You have to stay within that parameter, which is fine, because that's what we can see. But in order to get to the bottom how everything worked. These scientists had to get into quantum physics. And it's only about 100 years old. According to mathematics and science and quantum physics, there's 11 dimensions. There could be many, multitude of more, but they know that exists by the math. In order to disprove quantum theory, you have to disprove it with mathematical equations. So far, that hasn't been able to happen. And that's kind of important. Something, well, it's just a theory, it's just theory. Well, no, it's not just a theory. You can't see it. And that's what causes the issue. You can't see with your eyes, it doesn't exist. So in my book, I quote these guys and base some of my ideology on what I think quantum physics is saying. In the book, I reconnect science and spirituality, which is what Einstein did. He said science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind. I think if he could say today, he wouldn't use the word religion, he would use the word spirituality. And get into quantum entanglement, that's mind speaking. You heard people go, oh, they spoke to my mind. Well, no, we're all one energy, and I think they are part of that frequency that is one energy. And that's how we can sometimes communicate without talking. It does happen. We are three-dimensional perception of reality, vibrational frequencies, energy, the importance of language, very important. And ancient texts, biblical perspective, and professional finance on this matter. So what now if you think there's a large hairy roundhead around? What do you do? Well, that's me, by the way. On a horse that got hit by a truck, and my trusty old mule, Jackrabbit, who earned that name. Anyway, use classical science first and try to understand the usual events. Don't think that just everything you don't understand has to be put aside. Try to understand what's going on as best as you can, and that's when you don't be limited by your predetermined paradigm of what you think these things are. Consider inside and outside the three-dimensional parameters, and above all, keep an open mind. And that's what I really want to say to everybody: keep an open mind about this thing. You're going to hear people from the woo, you're going to hear people from the science department, which is great, good stuff. But keep an open mind. It's not so open that your brains fall out. Interaction duties. And this is in my new book over there too, but these are very clear your intentions. Who's hungry? Okay, got a couple who's going to walk out on me in a minute. Okay, more remote hotspots, you can find that on the BFRO actually, different websites talk about the different sites they've had in different areas. Use small groups is my opinion. Too many intimidates them, they won't come around. 2 to 4, you need someone with you to cooperate what went on. Habituate the area as much as possible, so they don't like changes. This is what I discovered in my research. Be predictable, relaxed atmosphere, be sincere and sober, great curiosity, have fun. Just relax. You won't find them. They're going to find you. Offer them food, good food. I got a picture of a handprint over a little mound of dirt that we dug a hole to bury our trash in, and then we left some painted meat out, and they buried it, and you can see their handprint over it. And, I just put that on my program here. It's fun to see. Just an old picture, like an old instant 110 camera. Horses and guns are okay. I say that because I think if you got guns and your intention is to shoot one of them, you're probably not going to see one anyway. We took guns for other reasons. It was a hunting camp. And also there's, I got a hat band with a 52-inch rattlesnake band around it, and 9.5 buttons they had on it. We shot that on the trail. It was kind of intimidating my mule and me. No forced animal sounds. I say that because don't assume that everything you hear is Bigfoot. Actually, if you don't see what made the sound, you don't know. You don't really know what made the sound. You can speculate, you can think, but these things according to Dr. Perlin's study, they have suggested that they have a really flexible vocal mechanism. They can probably mimic just about anything. What they can't mimic is their attitude, the volume in which it comes out. That Scott talked about earlier, I can't impress one. It's someone that's definitely, don't worry about this here anymore, but listen for the sound of silence. I noticed that when we knew they were coming around, everything would get quiet. You wouldn't hear a bird chirp, you wouldn't hear a cricket, you wouldn't hear anything. Just dead silence. And warning, here it comes. Here's the don'ts I suggest. Don't be the aggressor. They have to name their terms, their time. If you try to go out there and call them in, beat on trees, all this stuff, it's probably not going to work for you. They might think it's one and answer back, but that's all they're going to get. If you really want to have these things coming closer, let them be the aggressor. Just ignore them. That's what we did that night when they started flashing around out there. And anyway, don't be fearful. How do you think they'd be afraid if they heard those sounds right next to them? Be honest. Well, some of you guys are just trying to be honest. Well, I put that in there because it's kind of hard to not have a little bit of tendency to wonder. Are they going to eat you? Are they good or they bad? What are they and what are their intentions? Don't take dogs. I say that because if a dog starts irritating them, they will probably kill it. And on my second CD back there, I've got, why are you waving at? All the time, you're hungry? Don't take dogs because if they do irritate them, they will kill the dogs. And on my second CD, I got the 911 call on there, which has been plagiarized all over the place. It's a guy that I interviewed, and he had a visual, and his dog got killed. Big thump, tossed 35 feet away, big German Shepherd, and he actually saw the thing. Don't shine flashlights. They don't like white light shining in their face. Don't jump up and down when you hear unidentified sounds. Just calm. Be calm. Act like ignore them if you think they're around. Don't try to trick them. If you try to trick them, they'll see. We try to trick them over and over. We underestimate what we had up there at the time. Totally underestimated. They're a lot more to them than you want to give them credit for. Document what you do, share your knowledge and experience, and don't judge other people. That's what I don't do. There's people I might disagree with because I don't think they've had the experience that maybe they need to step over the little bridge. But I'm not going to judge them because that's where they are. We've all been there. We were all in the 8 camp at one time. I was. Hey, these are kind of cool. Keep your guard up. Don't underestimate. Be safe and prepared. You won't find them. They will find you. And they will toy with you. Because they think that we think we're smarter than them. But when you're out in the woods, they're the boss. This is my first book. It comes with a CD, and when you get the context of the sounds that I talk about, it's my 4-year chronicle of going into this wilderness area. You will hear the sound on the CD. It's also downloaded, and I have sold under 100 million copies. That's supposed to be funny. This is my new book, which I get into the physics and the possible rules that apply to the enigmas associated with these purported sightings that we've had. And it's kind of ending my program a little bit. Trails to you. Anyway, my contact information is here, and I have cards and brochures over there if anyone would like to pick those up. They're available to you. And thank you very much.